Hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to show you how to set up Google Analytics using Google Tag Manager. And this is going to be the new G4 Google Analytics on a site. And I'm going to dive into conversions. How do you track conversions, create conversions that you would use as Google Analytics events, Google Analytics conversions. And then we're going to tie that into Google Ads. So buckle up. This is going to be a new site. It's kind of a funny site. So I'm going to dive right into it instead of wasting lots of your time here. So the first thing that you'll always want to do is make sure that you set up your website and actually have it going. This is going to be for a funny site called Happy Underpants that we're setting up. And long story short, the first thing you'll want to do is make sure that you set up your site so that it's optimized for good triggers. Now, we'll get into what that means, and we're going to set up Google Analytics. But the first thing that I would do is remember that the things you want people to do are fill out contact forms. You want them to call you. You want them to click your email, and you'll have an array of different forms. So what I usually do here is when we look at this site here, we've got buttons up on the top that say call right now, right? And they're call buttons. These call buttons, I uniquely build them a little bit differently than what most people will do. I always use them as a link. I make them a link. And if you look here, it's TEL:+1. So I take the phone number, I put it in there, I put it in a button, or even if the number was right here, I would take it and I would hyperlink it. And I have a system that I always use. Be consistent with this so that it makes life a little bit easier for you. I always do, if you do TEL:+1, and then I always do the number without any separators in there, just so that it's consistent. I always do the same thing every time because we're going to use this. If people click on this link, a link that has that in there, it's going to trigger, and that's going to be our trigger. Okay. So the first thing you got to do is you have to build your site to make sense like that. So that's the phone call. Now, the other thing you'll see is when it comes to consultation forms or forms, okay, there's a number of different ways that you create this trigger or this event in Google Tag Manager, which then feeds analytics and then feeds Google Ads. But what you'll want to know is that depending on how you tell it to trigger when you fill out a form, there's some variables there. What I prefer to do is to use the form ID. And you might not know what that means or what that is. We'll dive into that just a little bit. This is a Webflow website. I prefer Webflow. I think it's much better than WordPress. Squarespace isn't bad, but everything I'm going to show you here is not for e-commerce. We'll do an e-commerce one later. This is really for professional services, stuff like that. So the optimization I've done here is I make sure that you're either clicking the call or every form or every button that says get started. He has another site that he's pushing people off to, but if you're trying to get started, those buttons are going towards doing a consultation. You click here and that's how it's going to work. Now I'm going to find the form ID for this. So what I did first is I said, I know that this is my URL. That's going to be a trigger. We'll get into that a little bit more. I know some of you are probably like, what is he talking about? But in order to find this little form ID here, which I'm going to use as the trigger, I'm going to go to the first part of this form, and I'm going to hit inspect when I'm in Google Chrome. I use Chrome. They're the evil empire, whatever. So form ID here, what I'm looking for is form ID. And when you zoom in here, you'll see, whoa, again, I'm going to go form and I'm going to inspect right there. So here's the first form. And then if I go up one, I'm just looking for form ID. Now I can see that the form ID is this guy right here. Okay. So form ID is email-form-2. All right. So I just want you to know that what I've done is I've built a site so that that form will be a trigger. And if you push this call button, it will be a trigger. A lot of sites you'll also have, if you clicked an email, that would be a trigger. Those are all events that are at least worth recording. And then when you do Google Ads, it's good to have them in for a conversion, because conversion-based campaigns can use machine learning. And that's how you really start making money. You can tell it to target this conversion, but not only that, you can go after a targeted cost per acquisition price, which is great. So you say, I want to only get these phone calls at a certain price, which is really good. So let's dive in here. The first thing that you're going to want to do is I would open up and start a Google Analytics account, right? And if you haven't done this yet, what you'll do is you'll go to analytics.google.com, right? Analytics.google.com. And we're going to open that entity. And Google Analytics has a couple of different tools here. You will create it. And once it's created, I haven't even installed it on this site yet. I'm going to show you how to do this on a Webflow site because that's what I prefer. If you're still using WordPress, that's great. But essentially what you're going to do here is you're going to create this entity. And if you come down here to the admin, you'll be able to see some more settings here. But up here, you'll see that there are some additional little features, and you can go to the tag manager. So the two things I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a Google Analytics account. And then the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google Tag Manager and I'm going to create an account. And what you'll do is you'll come in and you'll name it, right? And this is I already did. I have to make sure. I think I did this already. So I need to look at all of them that I have. Happy Underpants. Folks, I have some really cool customers. Always fun. Happy. I haven't made it. So let's do that. Let's do create account. We're going to do Happy Underpants. So again, I'm making a Google Tag Manager, which is Google Tag Manager is going to be the tool that we use to insert all sorts of codes. It's going to allow us to create these triggers. Like if you're like, hey, every time someone clicks on this, I want them to be added to an audience or become a conversion, or maybe you want to put a Facebook pixel. This basically, you take one JavaScript and put it on your website, one JavaScript code, and then through that's like the Trojan horse that you can insert all sorts of different codes. You can do different things. So I'm going to say yes, share all the data. happyunderpants.com. happyunderpants.com. And I'm going to be using it for web. And I'm going to create. I just agree to all the spying because that's what we want. All right. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do here is we're going to install this tag. If you are on WordPress, here's what I'm going to tell you. We'll dive into this right after on WordPress. There's a plugin called the Google Kit. So add the plugin Google Kit and it will show you how to get this started. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to these page settings or project settings within Webflow. And I'm going to use the header. And I'm going to come over to custom code. And underneath this little style, I'm going to put the header there. And I'm going to take the footer and I'm going to go like this, or the body, not the header. So footer code is the body code. It's kind of weird. So again, in Webflow, header, and then this goes into that body, that second part. I'm going to hit save and I'm going to hit publish. We are going to publish these. Now we're going to hit OK. And then the first tag we always want to open up is we want to connect this Google Analytics tag, and it's kind of goofy, okay? So this is the new G4 Google Analytics, okay? A little bit different than the typical one or the old UA type. So if you don't know what that is, you'll find out. So it's always funny. They change stuff. I make these videos and then everything changes. It's like, you got to be kidding me. But right now it's February 2nd or whatever. So the first tag I'm going to do. So the things you have in here in Google Tag Manager are you have variables, triggers, and tags. Variables, triggers, and tags. Variables are all the variables that you can use to accomplish stuff. First thing I always do is I come down to variables and I hit configure. And these are just putting in some tools that we can use. And the ones I always use are click URL and then form ID. So I'm just clicking those. And what that does is it kind of puts it in as a Lego piece that I can use, right? The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to tags and I'm going to add. So tags are you have triggers, which would be like if I fill out a form, this will happen. Or if I click that, that'll happen. I'm not doing that right away. First, I want to put in this Google Analytics tag because this is how we'll actually deploy Google Analytics. So go to tags, hit new, and I'm just going to call this Analytics. What is it? G4. I can't even remember what it's called. Go to Tag Manager. And again, here you have the Universal Analytics and then Google Analytics GA4 configuration. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. Now we need what's called the measurement ID. And I'm going to help you find the measurement ID for this thing. We're going to come over to this analytics that I already have set up, but I haven't deployed it yet. And I'm going to go down to admin. Once I get admin open, I'm going to go to property settings. Okay. And then once I get property settings, never mind. We're going to set up assistant. Set up assistant. If you're still with me here, and go to tag installation. Tag installation. I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to say this is for web. If you were doing an app or an iOS app, it would be different, but let's do web. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, I like to copy and paste just to make sure I don't spell things incorrectly. I'll take off the HTTPS. So boom, the stream name is going to be Happy Underpants. And enhanced measurement, hit yes. Have everything in there. Hit create stream. Now, once the stream is created, what you will see here is a measurement ID. So here's our measurement ID. That's how you get the measurement ID for Google Tag Manager. We're going to hit go. And then what I'm going to do is, so it's going to place this measurement ID from this Google Analytics account. And we're going to put that on every page. The whole entire website's going to have that. So if we kind of back up, this JavaScript code is going to be running on the site, and that JavaScript is going to shove in this tag. Excuse me, I just drank a bunch of coffee. All right, so we've added that, but we haven't published. Whenever you're doing Google Tag Manager, you have to publish things or submit things before. So analytics added, and I always like to just make sure that things are functioning simply here. I'm going to publish that. And I'm going to show you how to check to make sure that deployed, okay? So real quick, I did publish this, so that's there. We're going to recycle that. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the URL, and we're going to do what's called a preview. And the preview is kind of weird. This has changed over the years. It looks a little bit different. You hit preview, and then you're going to put in your URL and hit start. And what it's going to do, and it did work, is it's going to open in another tag. You can see that the debugger is connected. Always come back here and just make sure, okay, yep, it looks right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these actual conversions. Well, shoot, I'm a little ahead of myself. That's how you do that. Here's how I'm going to, so we'll actually end that. Let's stop that. That's how you do preview. And what that'll be is how you double check to make sure you're actually working. What I want to do is I just want to see if the tag is fired in here. And what I'll do is there's a Google Chrome extension called the Tag Assistant. Now, I think there's a new one, but this is what I like to use. So I'll click this, and you turn on, go download this in Chrome, right? If you don't know how to do that, go figure it out. And hit enable. And now all I'm going to do is refresh the page. And what this will do is tell me, do I see? Yep, there's Google Tag Manager, and there's my global site tag for the Google Analytics. So that means it is on there, so that's good. And we have the stream data. The streaming is going. So that's the first little thing. I like to get Google Analytics set up right away, okay? Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the tags that are going to fire, or the triggers that are going to fire a tag. So triggers are these events, right? So let's go back into the tag manager, and we're going to go to trigger. And this is, again, it could be if you click a link, or if you watch a video, or if you've been to 10 pages, or if you've loaded this page, or if you've filled out this form. Those are all triggers that will then initiate and be used in a tag. So I'm going to create a couple of triggers here. The first one I'm going to do is what I call, it's always click to call, and come down to trigger. And then what we're going to do is, the way I do this, again, when people are calling, I had copied, I have this URL. Again, I use a URL system. So I just right click, go to copy link address. And there's a reason why I do that. I've learned that it works really well. So I'm going to, sorry, I went kind of fast there. Go to just links. Now, again, if you don't see that trigger type in here, you need to add it under the variables. So maybe I'll just show that to you one more time here. So you can see under variables here, there's two that I want to add. I want form ID, and I want click links. So I'm going to hit configure, and all that's doing is letting me add stuff. And here's click URL, and then form ID. Those are the two I would add. There are other ways to do this, guys. This is just how I've learned to do it over time. I get great control over what I'm doing, and I like it. So let's go back to that trigger, and it didn't save, so I'm going to create another one. So click to call, click to too nice of a microphone. Cord's right my way. I'm going to say trigger. And this trigger is going to be on the just clicks. So I selected just clicks. And now it's not all clicks. That would be dumb. We're going to do some link clicks. Now here we're going to say click URL equals, and I'm going to put that URL in there precisely. Now, folks, if you put a different URL link in there, or if you use a different system, you need to find out exactly what is getting clicked for this. Now, you could do this for all sorts of different things. If you want to see how many people clicked on your button or whatever, you can do that, but that's a different thing for a different time. So I'm going to hit save. And the second trigger I want to do is I'm going to do this form ID that I found. Remember, form ID is how I choose to do it. And in a Webflow site, all you have to do is kind of find that form. And once you're on the form, I always just go into the first part of it, go to inspect. And if you go up, you'll find form ID right here. And there it is. Every form, if you don't develop in a smart way, you can make sure that your form IDs all have the same name, which is really nice. Otherwise, each form is going to have a little bit different form ID. And what I like about that is it gives you control. Okay. So be careful though. There is a tool in here called all form fill out, and I'll show you that. We don't want to use that. So form fill out for this trigger. And I'm going to say form submission. And you see this all forms? Don't use that. Maybe you have a different experience. It might be different for you, but what I've found is that that actually triggers way too often, and it's not precise. It will trigger when you don't want it to. I've set those up, and all of a sudden you just had these phantom form fill outs, and I don't know why. I've seen it on WordPress, Webflow, all these different sites. Never use just all forms. Even if anyone fills out any form, don't use the all form. Go in and uniquely put in multiple triggers for one tag, which you'll see. And that's what we'll have to do. So I'm going to create this one form fill out, and I'm actually going to put that form's name or the ID so I can label it. And again, we're going to come in here. We're going to say some forms and the form ID, and I'm going to say equals. Don't say contains, because it will trigger randomly, and just make sure you don't put the parentheses around it. I'm going to hit save. Okay. Now, if you had any other forms on your site, can you tell I'm from Minnesota? Any other forms so like down here, you'll see we have this little email. Now, I don't want this as a conversion action, but if I inspect that, we did name it the same. So it's email form. My developer and designer and we get together and kind of keep life simple for us. But you could have it where if you watched a video, that would trigger an event and you could do something. Now, these triggers can be used in multiple ways. So let's just keep moving here. We have the two triggers that we want. If you click to call, or if you fill out that form, both of those are going to trigger. Now, there's two things I want to do with this. First of all, I want to use this in Google Analytics as an event. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do tags, and I'm going to go to new, and we're going to do call or analytics call event. And I'm going to hit this. And I'm going to go to Google Analytics GA4 event, okay? And what I want to do is select our G4. So this tag, this would be that tag that we connected. I wish we could name it a little bit better, but I just know that that's the one that we added. And then the event name, we're going to call it, again, this is going to be call click. We'll just call it call click. I'm going to leave everything else here, event parameters, whatever, user. This is just to keep simple. We're going to go like this, and we're going to say click to call, and we're going to hit save. And then we'll do the same thing for the form. Not sure where that went. Maybe did it load? We'll redo it here. Pretty sure I did that right. Okay. Tags, analytics. Call or analytics call and G4 event G4 call click. Maybe it's something different each time. Click to call click, event name, save. Okay. Not sure why there it is. I'm like, Okay, now I have 2 in there. Shoot. I'll delete that last one. So what I do is I create these events first in analytics. So now let's do analytics form. And this is going to be handy because it will show us a handful of different things. Form filled. I'm naming them a little bit more distinct because analytics is going to try and do its own thing randomly, and I don't like that. Boom. All right, now I think we're in position to submit that and analytics. So I always start with analytics just to make sure that they're humming. It's a good testing tool to make sure stuff is going well. All right, so now that's there. Now what we'll do is we're going to run and just validate that. And the way we validate it, there's kind of 2 or 3 different ways. We'll want to see under the happy underpants, under real time here, we should be able to see as I click around on that site. Right? Let's reload the site here. If I click call, and if I were to go in and fill out this form, go. If I come over here, boom, under the event. So under real time, if you looked at events, it's not going to show you have to go to real time here. But what you'll see is we've got a couple of event names. So we've got a page view, a first visit, a session start. That doesn't look right. We have audience, view page. That doesn't look like it did it right. So I'm going to have to take another check here. So events, user engagement events, by event name, event count, first visit, session start. Those are not the events we put in there, guys. So we're going to have to take a look at this real quick. All right, so I figured it out. Everything was just working. Sorry, it took me a minute here. I just had to run it again. Sometimes when you do it the first couple times, it doesn't work. All I did was refresh it and do it in the tag manager. That I went into the preview mode and everything worked. So anyways, we've got those form events are now coming through, and there's some more work to be done within analytics to look at those events. One of the things that I would like to do is I would set it up as a conversion. So conversions are different in analytics. You have events and then conversions. And conversions, when you set up the event as a conversion, so we're going to take this event and kind of upgrade it to a conversion. What will happen is you'll be able to see more information. Call, click. I'll just name it consistently here. So what did I call it? So call event, call click. So we'll name everything call click just so that it makes sense. So call click. Oops. Oh, that's not what we're doing. Anyways, we'll do that a little bit later because it is a little bit different for me. I haven't done this as often. But long story short, I like to do the analytics first. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set up Google Ads, and that's probably the most important thing. So let's dive in. We'll get Google Ads pulled up. All right, so I got the Google Ads campaign set up here, and the first thing I got to do is we're going to add this tag, and we're going to hit new, and we're going to say what is it? The ads. I can't even remember what it's called. You go to the tag. What is it? Google conversion linker. So you have to put this conversion linker on there, and you have to fire it on all pages. So hit save. That's an important one. That's easy to forget. And sometimes if you don't put it in there, it's not going to work. So what we're going to do here is up in the upper right-hand corner, we're going to go to tools and settings and go to conversions. Okay. There's a whole other thing you'll want to do is set up audiences. That's a little bit different, but once you get into conversions, we're going to hit this plus conversions thing. And I'm going to use website for all of these. And I usually just do it's a contact, and I'm going to do call click. I'm not going to use a value because who am I to say that something's worth something if it doesn't close? It's a little bit different here. So now we can install the tag ourselves, email the tag, or use Tag Manager. Again, if you ever need help with this, I'm going to use Tag Manager. Now we're going to come over here to Google Ads, and we're going to add a couple of Google Ads conversion tags. So let's hit new. And then we'll say G ads, call click, tag configuration. We're going to do Google Ads conversion tracking, slap that puppy in there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the conversion ID, pop that conversion ID right there, and let's grab the conversion label, and we'll throw that puppy in right there. And then what we're going to do is let's get the trigger. I just leave everything else off for this video right now for this purpose. So let's do click to call, and we'll hit save. Let's do the same thing for the form. Okay, so now come back to ads, hit next, hit save. So call click is done, and now I'm going to do again website form. I just keep everything under contacts for this video right now. So form filled. I'm not going to put a value to it. Values are usually for e-commerce, and so we'll go Google Tag Manager, conversion ID. So now let's come over here. We'll go tag, new, G-ads form. You guys having fun yet? I sure hope so, because it gets a little intense. All right, tag configuration, Google Ads conversion tracking. Boom. And we'll grab the label, put the label in there, go to trigger. And now we form fill out email form 2. We'll hit save. And now that's good. Boom. Let's hit save. Let's hit next. Okay, let's hit done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make those into a conversion action set. Create. I'm going to grab those two, and I'm going to name it conversions, so that I can easily put those into a campaign that we can easily use. So now what you'll do is you can come into a campaign and go down to settings if you have one already running. And we're gonna kind of mess with this a little bit. We're gonna move from maximize clicks. We got some clicks up front. Now we're gonna do is we're gonna go for conversions. That's right. It's not gonna show, or change bid strategy altogether. We're gonna go conversions, maximize conversions. Now, after you get a bunch of conversions in here, going for target CPA, that's cost per acquisition or cost per conversion, you'll start to get a CPA that's really good to look at. You'll understand how much something's costing, or how much, how much has it cost for you to get a phone call? How much has it cost for you to get a form on this keyword or in this campaign? At first, you have to get conversions, and over time, you'll want to shoot towards, well, I only want conversions at a certain price. So right now, we're going to go, this is kind of like phase 2. We're going to go maximize conversions. I'm going to hit save. Oh, select a bidding strategy to use this. Maximize, what? Oops, I realized you got to come down and go to settings, go to conversions, and then we're going to select specific conversions. Or you can even use that conversion set. So now anything in that conversion set will be used. We hit save, and then we can come up. So now it knows what the conversions are. This was a brand new site. And we're going to go select automatically, and we're going to find maximize conversions, and I'm going to hit save. And it still says select a valid bidding strategy type. Why? Why is it telling me that? All right, that was kind of silly. I forgot to publish them over here in Google Tags, and I had to do each one of the conversions first for it to show up in Google Ads. It was saying I couldn't do it until I actually went and did one of them, and occurred or had the conversion actually happen. And real quick, it still didn't say that it's confirmed. It said it's still waiting. That can take like up to 24 hours or 48 hours. But now that I've done that, so I went through and actually just hit submit in Google Tag Manager and fired the conversion. I did it again. Now all of a sudden I can come to, again, the campaign settings, and I can go for conversions here. I'm going to hit save, and now it's letting me do that. So what we just did there was we hooked up the conversions. I'm going to come down here again and just make sure that I have the conversions, and it's the FW conversions there. And now we've set up conversions for the Google Ads. So that's how you get it done, guys. Good luck. Like and subscribe if you like learning about how to grow using digital marketing. We're going to have way more information about Google Analytics coming up in just a little bit, as well as Google Ads. Take care.